Welcome to this video about the different types of articles you'll find when searching in the library. Different types of articles have different purposes, audiences, and standards of review. So it's important to know what kind of article you're looking at when deciding whether it will be useful for any given assignment. In general, you will likely find articles that fall into three general categories: academic peer-reviewed articles, professional and trade articles, and popular articles. Being able to identify and understand what kind of information you'll find in each type of article is an important research tool and will help you streamline your research process to hone in on the kind of articles that will be most useful to you for different situations. Let's start with academic and peer-reviewed articles, which are typically the most common articles you'll find when searching in the library, and the ones you'll be asked to find the most for assignments and discussion boards. Here's an example of a scholarly article found in the library's Business Source Ultimate database. What sets these articles apart is that they're written by scholars for other scholars and tend to focus on very specific topics, making them sometimes difficult to understand for someone not already knowledgeable about the topic. In this case, note how under the author's names, we see which institutions they're affiliated with. For this article, we can even scroll down to the very end to read short bios for each author, noting that all of them are professors of business and management, which makes them pretty credible and knowledgeable experts on this topic. Also, looking back at the top of the article, notice how the title and the abstract, or the summary below the author's names, hones in on a very specific topic. The authors are attempting to prove a point to the audience. You'll see references to other articles within this article, known as in-text citations, as well as graphs, tables, and charts of their own. At the end of the article, you'll also find a list of references indicating which articles directly influence the work that went into this article. This is an important part of the scholarly research process, giving credit to other scholars, building on ideas, and continuing to expand the scholarly conversation. Academic articles also go through a process called peer review, where other experts in the field double-check their contents and research methods to make sure the information is credible before the article is officially published in a journal. Academic articles typically range between 10 and 30 pages and often take months, if not years, to complete. So don't expect to find academic articles about relatively recent topics. In general, academic and peer-reviewed articles are excellent sources for finding direct information and data to help support your own research. If you need to prove a point and need primary information to back it up, these kinds of articles are often the best option. Another type of article you'll often encounter in the business world is the professional or trade article. Just at a glance, you'll notice a big difference in the length and look of this article. These articles come from trade or professional magazines, which are written for members of a specific industry by other industry members or journalists. In this example, we're looking at an article from the Harvard Business Review, a prominent magazine in the business world widely read by business leaders. These kinds of articles discuss news and recent breakthroughs that might affect the industry in the future and can be a great place to read about recent trends and get up to speed on the state of the industry. In this case, this article is written by two professors, one of law and the other of management. It touches on working conditions within a company's supply chain. Note how it has some visual design elements. Basically, it looks a lot nicer than the academic article and is only a few pages long. This is because these articles are meant to be read quickly, as you page through a normal magazine skimming from article to article. These articles are much less dense than academic articles, so they're easier to read through and understand. Besides being much shorter, another major difference from academic articles is that trade articles do not contain citations. They may include quotations from other people, but they don't have works cited pages telling the reader where the information in the article came from, like an academic article. While the Harvard Business Review is a pretty broad example of a trade journal, you'll also find smaller magazines that write about specific industries. For example, here's an article from the Cabinet Maker and Furniture Design and Manufacturing magazine that guides businesses through the process of reopening during the pandemic. It's short, straightforward, and provides some on-the-ground information meant for businesses operating within that industry. As you can see, trade articles are great for learning about the latest news within an industry and can give you an inside look towards impactful trends you might want to pay attention to. If you need specific examples for how companies are dealing with an issue or doing something innovative, trade articles are your go-to option. The last type of article you'll find when searching in the library are popular articles. You're most likely pretty familiar with popular articles since they include magazines and newspapers meant for a general audience. So whereas academic articles are really only meant for other researchers, and trade articles focus on specific industries, Popular articles cover a broad range of topics and are intended for just about anyone. For example, here's an article from the magazine Wired about how Google tried and failed to develop its own gaming service. The author here is a journalist who may focus on the gaming and tech world, and the article itself gives the reader plenty of background info and context for understanding the whole picture. Like trade articles, it also doesn't have any formal citations and is relatively short. It's meant to be read in just a few minutes. Examples of other popular articles include other mainstream magazines, newspapers, and websites that are pretty freely available online or in print. Think about stuff that you would read at a doctor's office. Unlike academic articles, popular articles are a great place to find information on recent topics because they can be produced far more quickly. However, the downside of that speed is that popular articles do not go through as rigorous a review process as academic articles, and therefore lack some credibility. In the world of research, you tend to trade speed and recency with credibility. The faster something is produced, the less credibility it generally has, since fewer people have had a chance to check it for errors. That closes out this video on the different types of articles you'll most likely find in library databases. If you have any questions, get in touch with the librarian through our 24/7 chat service, via email at library@csp.edu, or via phone. Thanks for listening.